So I thought I would start with the most obvious question, and we'll do this alphabetically, maybe. Oh no, we can go this way. No, because yes, it was only yesterday. A good friend and an author held the door open for her, and she said, "What are you doing? Don't be silly. Let me hold the door for you." Going, so we won't just say woman first, whatever. So we'll do it alphabetically. So I thought the obvious question, and it would seem very obvious, is that why is it that the so-called bad girls and bad boys, so anti-heroes of mythology or any other story tradition, but especially Indian or Hindu mythology, are fascinating, why they attract you in particular and most other people? Then that's an obvious question, but it would be interesting to know how you approach this. But also, I'd like to add to that especially given the moral universe of Hindu mythology, such as it is, the now who's bad and who's good? So are bad boys and bad girls bad enough? Can they ever be bad enough? Because the so-called heroes and the gods and the good people also do some appalling things. Lying in the battlefield, killing people, staking your wife as if she's property in gambling, and beheading somebody because he's transgressed caste rules, etc., etc. A lot. So that is the question I thought we'd start with. Anand, first you.
Thank you. It is nice to be in Bangalore Lit Fest. I think last I came during Bahubali launch, 5-6 years now. Thank you very much. I agree with you, Ravi, and I disagree with you also. The first thing is the concept of good and bad is alien, or at least was alien to Indians. It was always about persons. It was always about karma. You do good karma, you will get the karma bala. You do bad, you get the karma bala for that. So there is nothing like this binary of good versus evil, which is perhaps the Western or the Abrahamic religious import to India. From that time onwards, we started thinking because of the influence. Because if you see the Abrahamic religions, I'm not saying one is superior or inferior or anything. It's two different kind of worldviews. So the Abrahamic religions have the worldview of the binaries: heaven versus hell, sin versus virtue, good versus bad, God versus angel versus Satan. It is always in the binary. It is always, and it is also an easy form of storytelling. If you see most of the films and storytelling which comes from the West, there are exceptions for rules everywhere. You can always find that the good guy is going and beating the bad guy. It's the simplest thing even a 5-year-old can understand. But whereas we Indians as a culture have been telling the stories in very nuanced way where there are no good or bad. So in Ramayana or Mahabharata, if you really see, especially the case of Ravana, most of my books, most of my television shows have been from the conventional side. I write Ramayana, I have written Siya Ke Ram. Now the Ramayana is coming in Sony TV from January onwards. Srimad Ramayanam, it's a proper Ramayana which is coming. I had done Mahabali Hanuman, where Hanuman is the hero. While I was doing the television show, I was also writing the book Vanara, where Bali is the hero and Sugriva becomes the antagonist, not the hero or villain. I won't use the term hero or villain. It is, Ravana is who? Ravana is Jaya, the bodyguard of Vishnu, if you go by the Purana, who gets cursed. Jaya and Vijaya gets cursed and they take life as, they are given a choice. They are given a choice. Some versions 7 lives, some versions 100 lives as a Bhakt or as the enemy of Vishnu. Sanaka Kumaras come and the boss tells them that the Jaya Vijaya are the bodyguards. So all the corporate guys living here, don't trust your boss, even if he is Vishnu. So Vishnu is the boss. The boss says to the bodyguards or the Dwarapalakas, the doorkeepers, that I'm going to sleep. Don't let anyone in. So these people, poor guys, boss has told, no. So when the Sanagadi Kumaras come, they stop them. When they stop them, these people curse. The rishis curse them. So they go running to their boss, and the boss says that, I'm sorry, but you should have used your intelligence and not the rule book. You should have let them in. So that I could have cursed you instead of them. That's another thing. So now they are given a choice. What do you want to do? The curse will be effect. So the choice is given as 100 Janmas. In South Indian versions, it is the 100 lives as enemies. In some other versions, it is 7. It doesn't matter. I mean, 100 Janmas as devotees of Vishnu, or 3 as the enemies. And they know that it is better to be the enemy of Vishnu than be the Bhakt, a dumb Bhakt of Andhabhakt they didn't want to be. So what they chose, they come as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, Ravana and Kumbhakarnan, and Kamsa and Shishupala, as per some versions, otherwise Shishupala and Dandavakra, as in some other versions. So in all these versions, they are not evil per se. They are playing a role in a drama. It's a Leela. It's called Leela of God. And each of them are given the karma bala. So Ram also, when Vishnu comes as Ram, he does certain actions which are required for that. For example, the killing of Bali or Vali. If you strictly go without context, what he did is wrong because he hid behind the tree and killed Bali. But what happens is, Ram, there are a lot of justification Ram gives. But ultimately, what is the truth in that? Ram has done a karma which is required for that event. That karma bala comes in the next avatar. Because in Indian thing, there is nothing called the end of time. There is nothing called the judgment day. It's all cyclical. Keeps on happening again and again. So the Bali comes back as the hunter Jara and kills Krishna the same way. So, who is good, who is bad? It's a karma bala which is acting again and again. So, the concept of bad boys comes only if we take the story in parts and not the entire Puranic world in the whole. Because it is a cycle of nature. Can give many examples as we go. And I hope she will contradict me so that we can take this forward.
So, contradict him.
Thank you, Bangalore Lit Fest. And Ravi, you are the class teacher of a classroom which has 2 nice kids and 2 notorious kids. Yeah, so 2 nice kids, 2 notorious kids. Congratulations to you. With a heavy heart, I admit that I will have to agree with what Anand said. And, in extension of what he said, what I feel is that there's nothing called bad. It is all about from which perspective you are looking at it. And the entire mythoverse is full of such kind of anecdotes, such kind of stories, such kind of characters. Very genuinely, in real life, in every kind of life. Say, I come from a space where I have 3 ladies sitting in front, and I'm trying to do good to them. And they're not enough powerful to be able to help themselves. But their being less powerful in the social space helps Anand because he's a businessman and his business thrives on these 3, right? So in his world, I'll be the Asur, right? And he will think that I'm the villain in his world because I'm doing good to them, but they are giving money to him because he is trying to do a business. So if you look at the story, this simple story from my end, then I am the Deva, he is the Asur, which is right, I'll tell you. And if you look at the story, and if you are very biased and try to, look at the story from his end, then he is the Deva, I am the Asur, which is not right. I think I'll...
Madhavi?
Actually, both of them have given you the mythological interpretation of good and bad, and the fact that there is no good and no bad, it's probably all the same. And I agree with that. The way I see it, in our mythology, especially in the epics, I feel the epics have always been didactic. They were meant to teach values, and these values were not, you were meant to think about them. So I don't make the difference between good and bad. I make the difference between right conduct and not right conduct. That's the righteous and the unrighteous, or the virtuous and the non-virtuous. And it has to be seen in the context of the limits. Both have got limits. Somebody who is extremely righteous, like Yudhishthir, can do something which even today we can't quite accept. Or Ram, as he does, he sends his wife away. That is something we can't accept even today. But in the context of the times, these messages these stories have always been about making us think. You know, what is right conduct and what is the consequence of that conduct. Both have to be looked together, and then you can decide if you want to do this binary of whether someone is good or bad.
Namaskara, Bengaluru. Chennagidira. Local boy, my first Lit Fest, so happy to make my debut in Bangalore, my hometown. I sort of love anti-heroes because my book wouldn't have been written if Karthavira Arjuna wasn't the anti-hero he was. I agree with what's been said. There's a context to their actions. There is a karma that they are playing out, probably a role in this particular lifetime. The good and bad have to be judged by what they did in that particular context, in that particular life, consequences of which will be borne by them later on. So the cyclical time concept is something that's unique to us, and I think we got to look at the overall picture of what's happened. In my first book, Karthavira Arjuna is probably a villain. But when it comes to part 2, you're going to see a bit of a redemption that happens to him. And there is a personal karma involved. I think people do pay back for the evil that they've done. I think that's what our Puranas and our mythology, our philosophy teaches us, that nothing comes to an end. It's not a full stop. There is a comma. There's another chapter. There's another paragraph coming. And you get to work your way through it. I think that's what I get from this.
So, Ranjith, we'll come back this way. So, if you can now, you know, it's all very well to say this, cyclical time, etc. Which of us is going to, you know, if we do, which of us is going to remember? Yeah. So, and this may seem stupid in the sense that, you know, that is a different world you're talking about. You can't equate it with actual lives that we live. But, and then, as you said, you know, it's supposed to, all of these stories are supposed to make people think, right conduct, wrong conduct, etc. And, you know, and there are no binaries, etc. Now, that's a capacity that at least seems to be the case, that a large, you know, population of this country seems to have lost the capacity to think. So, in this context, moral relativism of this kind, it can seem like moral relativism. Do you feel you need to intervene, or is it just enough to tell stories and say, you know, there's no good, there's no bad, there's nothing, you know, there's nothing right, nothing wrong? Do you ever feel that responsibility when you're retelling these stories also to correct that a bit, to make people think a bit? I mean, I don't know if I've confused you. Have you got my question?
No. I think I get the gist of it.
Yeah.
I think as a storyteller, your primary purpose is to entertain. But you do take a stand somewhere in your stories. It doesn't have to be a stand that reflects something contemporary, necessarily. It can be something very subtle that you're explaining. We have a lot of such points in our mythological stories. I mentioned Ram sending away Sita, the killing of Bali, all open to interpretations, depending on the context and the times that we live in. This is looked on as something unvirtuous, something not to be done nowadays. But can you give in a new perspective? That always comes through in your stories somewhere or the other. What you've gone through in life, what you've studied, what you've read, reflects in your stories and the way you tell it anyways. So you are bringing something, some judgment, some shading in the way you write the story itself. I don't think you can escape that. Whether the judgment is blatant, in your face, or subtle, you're just letting it slip into depends on how you want to write the story. So judgment will be there. I think it depends on the kind of story that you're saying. Parshuram, most of the story is sort of black and white. There's not much of a gray shading there. I think that comes later, after the climatic battle with Arjuna is over. The shading comes in there. It doesn't come in the first part of the story.
No. I suppose it's about retaining the complexity, reminding people of the complexity and rather than simplification. Yeah. I mean, there are these blemishes in, let's say, Ram's overall character persona. And those people seem to forget also. So that, anyway, Madhavi, what would you have to say?
Yeah, but the thing is that when it comes to writing about epics, all of us have chosen stories from the epics. The epics are, from my point of view, I see them writing about the epics as an ongoing conversation which I'm having with the readers. We are all having this conversation. It's there in our homes, it's there with our grandparents. Every time, and that was, I think, what the feel of the oral storytelling style which we grew up with, because you could ask why was this done, or did that person do the right thing? When you read it, you can't ask these questions, but writing about epics has always felt to me like I am having a conversation with other people like me living in the same time and space that I am living, but we are looking at our ancestors and the kind of storytelling that they engaged in at that time. So when I see the epics and the 3 books that I have written, if you look at them, why they're all about women. The one is about Kunti, the other one was about Yayati's daughter, and the third one is about Hidimba, the wife of Bhim. What is common about all these women? Well, I would say that both epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are actually in a way about heroism. They are about heroes and what is considered a heroic value. So Kunti, in a way, becomes the heroic mother, and Drishadwati in Bride of the Forest is the heroic daughter, Yayati's daughter. Hidimbi becomes the heroic other woman, the heroic bad woman, if you want to say, put it that way. But the value of heroism, which was considered very important when these stories were first told, and why these stories were passed on, is intrinsic to our culture and the way we tell stories. So I think trying to kind of be a bridge between is what I try to, for myself as well as for my readers.
I think even the karma theory, which some time back I spoke about, I'm going to contradict that a bit. Did Hanuman pay for his karma of burning Lanka? Imagine it. See, the children can easily see through it. We have been trained by religion. Now imagine this. You are a subject of Lanka. Imagine you are Bhadra of my Asura, Tale of the Vanquished, my first book. But I had purposefully put a common man there. You are already under a tyrant. Not you, I'm talking as a character, you are under a tyrant. Don't read between my lines, please. I don't mean anything else. You are already under a tyrant in Lanka, who is Ravan. Okay? This Ravan is there and you are living under Ravan. You have no power to do anything. Do you have any power as a common citizen of Lanka? You don't have anything, right? It's not a democratic country where we have a lot of powers and we can stop our government from doing anything evil. We have that power. But Lanka, Bhadra didn't have the power. The people, common people don't have the power. They are already under the tyrant. Then a person from across the seas come and burn down the city for nothing that I have done. A lot of innocents die. That's a karma, right? Where is the karma bhala of it? So, what they did cleverly is made all these people Chiranjeevis. Only the next birth, if there is a next birth, there is a karma, right? So you make them Chiranjeevi. Even Parshuram, he goes on a rampage, killing people. First, he starts his charity at home by first knocking off his mother's head. And then he goes on a rampage of mass murder. He goes on that. Where is the karma bela for that? Finally, there is an arc for his story. We understand that. All those things. But there is no karma bela. So what they do, they make him Chiranjeevis. So essentially where I am coming from is, karma theory is just one among thousands of philosophies that evolved in India. There is this beautiful philosophy of Lokayata which was very popular, which perhaps most of us are Lokayatas. My next book is that, not the one which I am launching today. That's about a small elephant. It's a children's book. A small elephant living under a tyrant thing. It's an allegorical children's tale. An allegorical tale where a small elephant is living. But the next one, which is called the Asura Way, which is coming. So it is based on the philosophy of Lokayata. So I am answering your question. The Lokayata philosophy talks about there is no God, there is no heaven, there is no karma, there is no karma bela. Things happen at random. Enjoy your life. Eat, drink and enjoy. You don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. This was very prominent in the 2nd century BC, 3rd century BC. Before the Bhakti, this was prominent until perhaps the Bhakti era took off. So it is not that people blindly accepted the karma theory, and karma theory is the whole thing, because as he rightly pointed out, who knows whether there is next Janma? Just like who knows there is a heaven and there are 72 huris and rivers of wine. These are all the promises. Whether it is politics or religion, it always works on good days are coming. Like the great Trump said. You suffer through your life now so that you don't drink now, so that you don't go to the pub, you don't enjoy with multiple partners, so that you go to the heaven, you have Remba, Tilotama or 72 Huris or whatever it is. You have everything. It works on the promise. Who knows that? Similarly, the other one, no, in the next Janma, today you suffer so that the next Janma you will get everything. You will be born as whatever. Those days they used to say, you used to be born as Brahmin so that you will get free food. Now you don't get reservation or anything, so you'll have to change the theory. So this Dharma theory keeps on changing. So essentially they told stories as debates. Mahabharata is the greatest debate on Dharma. So again and again it comes as Dharmasya Tattvam Nihidam Guhayam. And Bhishma is asked, Bhishma says, I don't know what this Dharma is, dude. It is as obscure, it lives in some caves. Nobody knows what this is. People keep on explaining it as per their need. So that is why in Ajaya I asked this question. Actually, I didn't ask the question. There is a temple for Duryodhana in Kerala called Porivadi Malanada temple, where almost 5 to 10 lakh people come every year. He should be aware it is near his district. There is one in Himachal also. There when I had gone for the festival, after writing Asura, I had gone there. There this one old man had asked this question, where Duryodhana is the Murti. There is no Murti there, there is no idol there, but he is called Apupan or grandfather. Duryodhana, Shaguni, Dushala, all these characters are taken on like Jagannath Puri Rathayatra. Huge Rathayatra goes. So there they asked this question, which I raised in Ajaya, Roll of the Dice and Rise of Kali also, which is Duryodhana's Mahabharata. If Kurukshetra is Dharma Yudh, is Dharma Kshetra, and if it was good that won over evil, what should have dawned after the war? The Satya Yuga or the age of good should have dawned. But what was it dawned? It's a great Kali Yuga where we are living. We are much better off. If I take Lokayata philosophy, we are much better off. We have electricity, we have mobile phones. We are living a bindas, materialistic life. What was there in Satya Yuga? We are much better off in the materialistic world. But going by the story philosophy, if it was Dharma, the Pandava side which won, why didn't Satya Yuga come and why did Kali Yuga came? This is the ancient debate techniques which were used to explain. So the Mahabharata itself is a debate. And it is a Dharma Yuddha because it is a clash of one Dharma against the another. So seen from Duryodhana's side, the Dharma is with them. Seen from Pandava's side, since they have won, Dharma is with them. So it has been always a debate and never it is settled, including the karma theory which I had told. There are so many exceptions. Last thing I will add in the karma, this thing, when after Krishna's death, this is something which nobody talks about, or just before Krishna's death, Krishna hands over all the women he had saved from Narakasur, the 60 or Jarasandha, whichever version you go with, 16,000 wives, not the 8 wives, but the 16,000 wives to Arjun, and tells him to take them to Hastinapura and protect them. But as Arjun is going, Durjaya, a tribesman whose name is Durjaya and his people come, they defeat Arjun, take the Gandiva out of Arjun's hand, smash it on Arjun's head and break it into two, take away the 16,000 wives and go. So the theory which many people, when I had asked, they were giving was, this is the karma bela of Ram going and trying to save Sita and killing so many people. The karma bela is acting. But the problem with that is, how are these women responsible? They have suffered that time also, they suffer this time also. So there are so many unanswered questions which give storytellers. This is what has helped storytellers across centuries to weave stories again and again and tell it from different sides. So for us, I won't call it religion, the view of life. They call Sanatana. Sanatana is not that it doesn't change and you have the same value. What doesn't change is the world view, that there are multiple views of the world and there could be different truths. And it is only through the debates that you can arrive at your truth and I can arrive at my truth, or perhaps both of us won't, but it's a journey. So that is why there are so many schools of philosophy. There are so many things where from the theory of chance, as I said, that the Jaina theory, the old Jaina theory, not the ritualistic Jainism what you are talking about, where they talk about world, there is no creator for the world is made of kanas or atoms. By chance, they join and disjoin. Through that, the materialistic world comes and everything. We are talking together because there are thousands of chance elements which had acted in chance ways, including your birth, right? You fight with almost 10 million of your brothers and sisters to get born. Your life starts with that competition. And this is the best version. Imagine it, those other people, you are the best version of what you have won in that first competition of the sperm. So God knows what is or whoever there, they knows how good the other, who you are defeated would have been. You are the best of that. But it's a chance event, right? The birth itself is a chance event. From that theory onwards, so that whatever happens, evil happen at random. Everything happens at random. Don't worry about it. Live in the moment because we are just here. That's one theory of way of looking at life. So we have so many, the 6 major system of philosophies, but there are millions of philosophies each one can develop. This is fundamentally the basic difference which helped us to be, I won't say tolerant. Tolerant is a word which Britishers used. Tolerance has a problem. I am tolerant. When am I tolerant? I am tolerant. I know you are wrong, but still it's okay. That's tolerance. India is not a tolerant country. India is rather an indifferent country. I don't care what you are doing. You want to do puja to Duryodhan? Do it. You want to do to Hidimbi? Do it. I will do to Krishna. I will do to Ram. Everything is permitted. So it is more of indifference and acceptance of all things which came from these multiple philosophies.
Well, let's
Thank you.
hope we reclaim it. Koral.
You know, the reason I get so angry with him is, he started with Vyasa Mahabharata, conveniently slipped into some folk with that Arjun tale. Matlab, someone saying that I am a vegetarian suddenly picks up a chicken, chews a few and throws the bone. So anyway, coming to mine. And another reason is his Vanara. I have a lot of issues with his Vanara. And I am even more angry at the fact that I love the book. Now, how do I help myself there? So, you see, you're coming back to your question, from which he has gone somewhere else. I am a storyteller.
Everything is related, you see.
Yeah, I am a storyteller. I am not an activist. So, whatever be my personal stand, like Ranjith, you were saying, I would probably not try to bring that in front while I am telling the story. I will try to tell the story more from the perspective of the character, who is my protagonist, and try to do justice, do a lot of logical thinking on why the person feels or what is the character all about, what is the chief motivation of the character. A lot of people call my books feminist literature. That is not a term that I had used or my publisher had used. It's the media and the readers. Thank you. But I'll tell you where it comes from. In my Sati series, the ladies talk about their own story. So it's a first-person narrative. And when they're doing so, I get a lot of reaction from the readers. So when it is a first-person narrative, there's a lot of things that women say and there's a lot of things that they don't say, right? They just gulp it down. But that doesn't mean that there's no reaction to it. So when the woman is talking her own story, you get to see what she is thinking as well, though she has not picked up the battle, right? So a lot of people say that, oh, the woman is thinking, man, feminist. So if a woman thinks she's a feminist, I give in to that. However, while writing the stories, I have kept two things in mind because I wanted to do that. One is I tried to figure out who are the men these women are falling in love with. So when it comes to Mandodari, which is my latest release, I needed to know, why did Mandodari fall for Ravan? In Indian mythological belief, Ravan is the biggest villain, right? Mandodari was not a foolish woman who will fall in love with an abuser. So there must be something that he was doing as a husband, which made sense in her zone of existence, because of which she loved. For a long period of time, we had been fed this idea that the macho, dominating, intimidating kind of men are the most attractive kind of men. And I see reason why mythology gives I see a lot of things where mythology tells a different story. That the women fell for men, the men that women fell for were not the intimidating, abusive ones, and those were not the qualities that women fell for. We have come a lot away from them. It's interesting that we go back to them and try to think about it. You may not agree to my narrative. You might have your own narrative, but at least put time there and try to go back to your culture, to your history, figure that out. Second is, Indian epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are not commercial fiction. They are philosophical narratives. So each and every event in these narratives is metaphorical, has a spiritual meaning to it. We have come a lot away from that kind of understanding. Initially with the doing away of Sanskrit, which was the original literature, original language in which the stories were written. So when I am translating, I will put in a little bit of my creativity and punch it in. So I'm a Bengali, he's a Malayali, so he's a Malayali. She's a mix. So anyway, let me not get into that and get some jute. So everybody who is translating, be it any kind of creative art, will put some bit of their creativity, and the stories keep changing. And in due course of time, the philosophy was off the mark. We don't now try to understand the philosophy at all, and we only try to look at the stories just from the framework of it. Which is not the purpose, which was not the purpose. I and Anand have together debated on things like Sita. And he had very rightfully brought out the point that Sita is one of the most interesting characters and the most disobedient ones. And which is very true. You know, these are the contexts we have lost just because philosophy was out. We said, okay, Sita crossed the Lakshman Rekha. Sita listened to someone else. Sita asked for the golden deer. Sita did some mistake. Because of Sita, war happened, people died. Sita was the problem. What we derive from there is women take decisions, women cause problems must be solved. What is the solution if women are causing problems? Correct the woman. So all those things like
and
sit like
fight
this,
some
stand
wars
like
on the
this,
side. Yeah, kill each
stuff
other.
like that.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask. So you're saying 5 minutes? Does that include questions? If there are questions, what is the format now? I don't know. Sorry? 5 minutes, we should just disappear. All right. So, sorry, there won't be any questions. Please, yeah.
I have a small rejoinder. I don't agree with her in one thing, that originally it was written in Sanskrit. There is a big problem. Why you are forced to do a feminist, I won't call feminist narrative. Why people are calling it as a feminist narrative is because Sanskrit, what was Sanskrit? Sanskrit was the language of the elite. All these stories are there, first appeared in Prakrit or other Indian languages, like whether it is Kannada or Telugu or Malayalam, all the classical languages, and the Prakrit and Pali, all these stories were there. Sanskrit, the word itself means refined. Unless there is unrefined, something is there. What will you refine? Right? The Sanskrit narrative was a Brahminical narrative. I'm not talking about caste. I also come from, it's not a fair thing to say, but since to keep the context, I come from the same this thing and I have learned initially from the Sanskrit only. But the Sanskrit is a narrative which was given by the elite men. Women were not allowed to learn at least from the 1st century AD, the Sanskrit itself. Many of the Sanskrit dramas, the women characters and the servants and other people talk in Prakrit and only the male characters talk in Sanskrit. So we have got through the Sanskrit narrative only one point of view, the male, upper caste male perspective. Whereas it is in the folk narratives that you get a lot of things. And from where she hails from, it is rich of folk narratives. And the Shakteya and the Tantric tradition is full of folk narratives. The Devi Purana is full of folk narratives.
So Vyasa did not write Mahabharata.
Vyasa is the name of an editor. There could be thousands of Vyasas.
Editor.
Correct. He's
The
an
story
editor.
is
Vyasa
was
itself.
telling and Ganesha
Vyasa
was writing.
itself is editor.
Now what is Ganesha? Publicist.
Ganesha is a scribe. He's just a secretary. If you go by the myth. But if you go by scholars, it is written and it has evolved over 800, 900 years, told by oral storytellers, and that is why there are more than a lakh of Mahabharatas. So Vyasa was writing all the lakh of Mahabharatas. There are so many Ramayanas. From where did they come from? In Valmiki Ramayana itself, there are references of previous Ramayanas. From Kagabusandi onwards, there are so many Ramayanas. So Valmiki, one side you are calling him Adi Kavi, but in Valmiki Ramayana itself, the references of various other Ramayanas come from. So there are and Kagabusandi is a crow.
So,
Right, it's a crow saint.
Yeah, so
I think we can open to the audience.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
but
we will keep fighting.
they're not letting us do that. So you want to have the last word, please do.
Vyasa meaning itself is editor.
Yeah, see, so this should have been a much longer session. Please, what I'd urge you to do is to pick up at least one book, by each of them, read them and engage with this whole thing, which as you were asking me, does this interest me? Yes, it does interest me. It interested me more than it does now. I'm not religious, but I'm interested in mythology. But increasingly, I also feel, unless things like this happen, it's a dead thing. What use is it? So therefore, thank you for talking about it, and please.
Thank you.
try it.